All right, so today we're going to do a quick review of all our dependent clauses. So remember one thing, a clause has subject verb, but a dependent clause is not a complete sentence. So it needs to be paired with an independent clause to become a complex sentence. And in English, we have three types of dependent clauses. We have adjective clause, which is the same as an adjective or a participle phrase or a prepositional phrase because they are just adjectives that modify nouns or pronouns. We have adverbs, that is called adverbial phrase. It modifies the verb and it starts with subordinator. So this is very important. If you don't know your subordinators, you should go and review subordinators, right? The subordinating conjunction in our part of speech conjunction lesson. That is the subordinators. And our adjective clause starts with something called the relative pronouns. So again, if you don't remember, go and review the relative pronoun lesson under parts of speech. And last but not least, we have a noun clause. So a noun clause is simply something with subject verb, but it functions as a noun. So it is often the subject or object of our sentence, like a noun or pronoun, or like a gerund phrase. All right, so that is why I call my clauses level 3 building blocks. So if you remember, our level 1 building block is our basic parts of speech. They're just one words usually. Level 2 building blocks would be our phrases because it is a group of words without subject verb, so it is never a sentence, whereas a clause is level 3 because it has subject verb, all right? And it's also a group of words. So now in number 1, we can see the first word, although is a subordinating conjunction, right? A subordinator. So that means in this case, we have our dependent clause, right? And if you remember, when we have our dependent clause at the beginning, our adverbial clause, we need to have an introducer comma. So again, if you don't know what introducer comma is, please review the 4 types of commas PowerPoint lessons that have been uploaded already. All right, but although, because it is a subordinator, this is our adverbial clause. And what is it doing? It is indicating concession. All right, so one key point to remember is that we never use although or even though and but in the same sentence. So a lot of Chinese speakers, they like to say, oh, even though blah, 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 but blah, blah, blah. That is incorrect. Because if you remember, comma, fanboys equals semicolon equals period. So you are creating a fragment if you use them together. So make sure when you have although or even though, you only use a comma followed by your independent clause. All right, so the basic structure of this sentence is D, adverbial clause dependent, introducer comma, and then independent I. All right, so number 2, Anne told us that she is of Scottish ancestry. So if you don't remember, we have 3 types of noun clauses. Please go back and review. We have that clause, if or whether clause, and then question noun clause starting with WH or how word. So this is obviously a that clause. So what is it doing? Well, Anne told us that it is functioning as the direct object of the sentence. So this is a noun clause functioning as direct object after verb. So you might be wondering, then what is the us? The us is the indirect object. Remember, we talked about this, the basic sentence structure. I bought Cece a pen. What is being bought? The pen is being bought. That is the receiver. And Cece is being affected. So Cece is the indirect object. All right. So you can also rephrase it to I bought a pen for Cece, or Anne told that she is of Scottish ancestry. So that is just subject, verb, direct object. All right. And number 3. He is a reporter who is our relative pronoun, right? Our relative pronoun, again, if you don't remember, go back and review, include who, whom, whose, which, that, and relative adverb when, where, and why. So in this case, this adjective clause is modifying the antecedent reporter. So it is adjective. And to be more specific, it is essential adjective clause. And that is why it doesn't come with commas. Number 4, Jason will not be going with us because, well, if you remember, because is a subordinator. So it is like although, and that means we have an adverbial clause here, right? I'm going to type adverb, and this is an adverb clause that indicates reason, right? Because, since, as, they tell us the reason. And do you see the layout? There's no comma here because our independent clause comes first, followed by our dependent adverbial clause. So there's no need for a comma. Okay, and number 5, his belief that all people are created equal caused Gandhi to reject the caste system in his country. So be very careful that you don't overcross your or over underline your noun clause in this case, because your independent clause is his belief caused Gandhi to reject the caste system. So this is the confusing part. Some people are wondering, hey, is this an adjective clause or is this a noun clause? This is actually our noun clause functioning as a positive. So you might be wondering why, because relative pronoun that is obviously modifying the belief as well. And our that all people are created equal is modifying the belief as well. So what is the difference? Let's compare 3, which is an adjective clause, and 5, which is a noun clause. Do you see how the relative pronoun has to be the subject or the object of the adjective clause? So in number 3, the relative pronoun who is subject. But for number 5, that all people are created equal. The that is not the subject, right? It is not the object because there's no object required here. We have passive voice verb. And that is why this is a noun clause as a positive. Okay, so to give you some examples, right, of noun clause being used as a positive, the idea that people can get A without studying is wishful thinking, right? So it often, a noun clause that is a positive often follows the word idea, theory, belief, notion, concept, statement. All right. Okay. So number 5 is the tricky one. So I'm going to put star sign next to it. All right. So let's look at the last one. For those who, well, whenever you see who, you know, this is like number 3. This is our adjective clause. Who want to see spring wildflowers? So this is modifying those, right? And actually there should be a comma here. And what is your independent clause? Remember, there can never be subject. That is called expletive. It is adverb function. So it is actually a verb preceding subject type of sentence. So your independent clause is a guided hike will be there. Okay, and this is adjective. I should use great. And of course, without the comma, it is essential adjective. Okay, and that is a quick review of our 3 types of dependent clauses.